Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet. I'm currently feeling a little under the weather, so if my voice sounds a little congested, apologies, just recovering from, I don't know what it is, sinus infection, cold, you name it. So, for folks who are subscribed to the feed, you will have heard a pilot podcast recording that I'm doing with Brandon DiCamillo. I've been wanting to do this recording since about 2010, and honestly, my memory is so shot, I don't know what caused us not to record it in 2010, but it could have been a variety of factors. But now, the time has come, Brandon DiCamillo is interested in recording a podcast, so we recorded the pilot that many of you hopefully have already heard. The background to this is that I'm interested in recording a podcast with someone like Brandon DiCamillo, who could set the tone. I mean, I think it's got a kind of surrealist comedy element to it. Certainly, I've gotten critical feedback from some, but my view is the ability to record a podcast with someone who has been historically, commercially funny, let's put it that way. Let's say someone who's been funny for a reproducible fashion. If you go back to Stone Ape number 10, which was back in 2010, I outlined to Heron some of my thinking associated with why doing a podcast with Brandon DiCamillo would be interesting. And I hope this continues out through this project. He could just get very sick of the format within a recording or two, but we'll see how it pans out. Obviously, there's a lot of subject matter that could be touched upon, but I'll let him decide. I mean, ultimately, it's really a recording which is pretty well mutually defined. And I think folks might be interested, associated with what's happening with This Comes Next. Well, Jay has been sick, I'm now sick, so we're working through mutual sicknesses and trying to find a recording time that will be beneficial. We've got a long list of topics to go through, but I think This Comes Next is defining itself in its own right as well. So my interest is, can I fit in another podcast in my already packed podcasting schedule? And is the conversation with Brandon DiCamillo as an extended conversation? What benefit does this have in my own kind of cognitive sense? I actually quite liked the pilot. I thought it was sufficiently abstract, sufficiently surrealist to be keenly identified as having a good contribution from Brandon himself. And I think that's probably a direction that this recording is going to take in the future. Whether it has an audience or not, time will tell. It needs to have a name and a podcast feed and these kind of things in order to get people interested and actively involved. But in the short term, we've got one piece of listener feedback, which I think is going to be very interesting. And if other folks that listen to Short Funk want to provide listener feedback, now is the time to get in early and have comments discussed accordingly. Now, my perspective in terms of this being a long-term podcast, everything can go wrong, anything can go wrong, and I just want to see how it pans out. I've recorded podcasts previously, 4, 5, 6, 7 podcasts, not quite working out, and This Comes Next is in an interesting phase in that light, because Jay brings a certain number of people, a few of whom have actually listened to the podcast, and working through whether the podcast can define itself in that context, in parallel having Brandon DiCamillo's podcast trying to define itself in some context as well. To be decided how the whole thing pans out. I find recording content, even recording interesting content, it's difficult to get folks engaged in the commitment of listening to these recordings. So I'm certainly looking for listener feedback here associated with the directions that things should or may take. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.